Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sergeant Alex here, and I decided to do a back record over the footage because this one is going to be a little bit of a lengthy process. So I kind of want to do cut and paste on it just to shorten it up. So now that I got that out of the way, what we're making today is I kind of wanted to expand on a smelter and make a super smelter. Since my last smelter I called a super smelter, which worked pretty good, but I wanted to do something bigger, better, kind of cooler. So I decided to go for 64 smelters, and I wanted to hook them up in a vertical way, which is complex. So to help you guys out and help me keep myself organized as we're building, I'm going to use wool and stuff to kind of lay out where certain parts are going to be. The yellow part is going to be collection, the orange is going to be loading up the fuel, and then the red is going to be loading up whatever you're smelting, whether it's cobblestone, iron, gold, you get it. So I want to do it in this fashion, that way I could show that it's stackable and how much room you're going to need. It's roughly 4 blocks tall with smelters and all the hoppers and furnaces are going. And I did try to keep the cost down on this one, but when you're going after something this large, you're going to need a lot of iron. Over here we have kind of my little testing where I figured everything out and figured out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. I tried to have them split up and that really didn't work. And right here is kind of showing the mechanism that's getting the carts up and down. I'm just going to rely on little bubble columns that push them up and then just gravity taking care of the rest for return. So everything is stackable. As you can see, I'm adding the second layer here. I'm going to cut out the rest and just do the start up around the 4th layer where we actually start doing some of the actual building. So I will see you then. Okay, and here we are. We're going to start off with the red layer, which loads in the smeltables. So I'm going to delete this, and then we're going to do a line of hoppers on top of each one. We're pretty much going to follow the basic rule of just using hoppers to load. So crouch shift and place hoppers, go and make sure they're going into the actual furnace. I did a few out of trying to get it done fast, and I had them pointing into another hopper. So one furnace was getting double duty. So again, I'm just going to try and keep this as short as possible. You don't need me showing you how to do 64 furnaces with 64 hoppers going on top of them. And I'm pretty sure this design is stackable. You can make it bigger and smaller. I'm just going to highlight the little key parts of building the entire thing. And the next little part is just putting some rails on top of some hoppers, the ones you just placed. And towards the end of the build, I did put 2 powered rails on each end to make sure everything got along, moving smoothly. As I said in the last video, you might need to adjust this accordingly if you're on a server or something. I don't know how it will react. I don't have the resources to build on a server, but here's a little elevator. It's going to kind of S its way up. So here we are at the bottom layer. So the next one, you'd go up on the second layer all the way to the other end. And then the 3rd layer, you would do it again, which I'm going to build on that side. Kind of did a little zigzag there. So here's where the second one would be. And you're going to just come out 2 blocks, an ice block, and then soul sand. And then you're going to build up a nice little wall, 3 long. Then you're going to come around the end there, cap that off, and then come back around 3 blocks. And then I just ran in powered rails. You want to put a button down on top of the ice block. This will prevent water from flowing out, destroying all of your beautiful rails, which I have run into that problem many times before. And then just to recap it, a little wall of 3 coming off the soul sand, a block behind the soul sand, then a wall on the opposite side, and get rid of that temporary one. Button right in front of the soul sand on top of the ice block, followed by 2 power rails, which will connect everything up, and that should hold a block of water. Because we are going to be making cute little adorable bubble columns. Above the button, you're going to come up 4 panes of glass. I'm just kind of looking at the back there at the previous ones I built. And I did glass because 1, if case there's an issue, you can kind of look to find the issue, and 2, it kind of looks neat. And we're going to bring up the walls here to match up with that and come off 2 blocks from those rails. So your glass block is going to be 1 higher than where your rails are, parallel to the hoppers. So 2 blocks there, there should be 1 pane of glass above it, and build your walls up. And The more I think about it, I keep thinking it's a complex built design here, but in reality it's not. You're going to build a temporary rail on top of that glass block to have a nice angled powered rail that goes straight into the line there. Just a temporary one because there's going to be water over that block in a second. But first we need to bring the water up, and do be careful about the placement. I've messed up a few times and it kind of makes a mess, and it's thankfully there's not too much redstone or stuff destructible by water, but it's still a little nerve-wracking. I'm pretty sure if it went on that glass block, I'd be cleaning up some of it. And then at the top here, we're going to come over 3 blocks from the poles, kind of mimicking the bottom. So coming up 1 and over 2. That way we have a nice little wall to place a button on there and kind of just make everything look nice and neat. Place your button at the end there. Put your block of water so you have a nice running current towards that rail. And then just put 2 blocks on as a roof. 2 more blocks on as a roof. And then we just need to power the rails. So here's where I put 2 powered rails on this end of the build. And I already have a redstone block up here. Pretty much however you want to power it. I do redstone blocks because it just makes the build neat and orderly. But again, it's up to your preference. And I do move them 1 in just to kind of give a little bit more room in case you have to do some work towards the little hopper elevator. And here we are testing it. And minecart goes in, comes up, and then slides back down. And should fall off the end. And that part where it fell off the end is where you're going to do the other one. So I think I'm just going to... Well, I want to say in the video so you can see where I place it. But I don't actually remember when I do place it. It's this level here though where I just place those. This is where it would come out, and then that's just the top of it. So redstone block, redstone block, redstone block, and come on, you want there we go. And then 2 blocks off, and this is where you build the second elevator. I don't think you need a tutorial on it, so I'm gonna cut out to the next part. And if everything is done correctly, you should have a nice little S snake of track going upwards, and it should hit all the little hoppers, which would be giving it 1 little furnace smeltable. And it does. So then the orange section, which is where we load the fuel, is just rinse and repeat. So get rid of the wool, run your hoppers into the back of each smelter, and then do some rails over the top. And because of the fact that you're diagonal to some rails, it might be a little wonky. So just you might need some temporary blocks to run past to make sure everything's nice and straight. And then we come on to the next part, which I'm not going to be too long because it's the same little elevators that we have here. It's just you're going to place 1 block there and then come out from there. So there's the 2 blocks right there. And then we are going to place our two blocks coming off of that one, and the ice, soul sand, and then we're going to build the elevator up from there. So pretty much wherever you have an elevator, you're just rotating it 90 degrees and placing it in. And I will jump to the finished product. And here we are. I just finished off everything, kind of mulling some stuff over in my head, kind of what I want to do next. And any second now, there we go, signs of life. I'm going to come to the bottom here because all our elevators are in, so once a nice little push is done, everybody should float up. And for this, you want to look at the backs, that way you can see that's the fuel mine cart. And everybody's going to pop up. There we are on the top layer. And both guys jumped off, which is exactly what we wanted. So now comes the fun part. How do we get the collection, the yellow part, and then we have to finish off the track for these 2 little mine carts to load everybody up. So let's get to that right now. Okay, and we have the system pretty much done. I have it loading up with fuel and smeltables right now. One thing I do want to stress as I hover around the collection system is you want to do your smeltables first. Make sure you get all the stuff you're smelting in there first, or give it a good head start, and then have your fuel for max efficiency. I found this to be an issue afterwards due to the size, But for collection, pretty much just some hoppers collecting at the center of each line, then going straight down into a chest. If you want to use a lot less iron, aka hoppers, do one line down, not two. I did two because it looked kind of cool, and I'm in creative mode, so I have unlimited everything. And then we have our chest. This one has smeltables, the other one has the fuel. And as for the delivery system, it's pretty simple. One of the things I do want to point out before I go any further is that the diagonals that are off to my right here, those are important on placement. You will see why in a second. It just has to do with making sure everything moves properly. But that is pretty much the completed system. There's some decorating stuff I do at the end. And I am about to flick the lever for the fuel, start putting fuel in there. And this is where I found out, you should put the smelting items in there first before the fuel. But the minecart's making its way up right now. And there it is. Pops up the next elevator and has enough speed because of all those beautiful power rails at the end to keep on moving with a nice flow to make sure everything gets one. And then it just drives right off the end. Hits the diagonal, which is an important part, so it goes diagonally down and then goes back to the station to get sent back up. And it'll do this as long as that lever is activated. You could hook it up to a redstone clock to have it run for a certain amount of time, then stop at the station to reload up. And here we have the fuel is still loading, but in this time I will show you the redstone that I have for here, so it's nice and compact and as simple as I can figure it out. And pretty much the block under the lever, which is the lever's right there, redstone dust next to that, going into a block that has a torch on it, which is the block that the hoppers stop on. And right next to that block is a powered rail, so everything gets nice and juiced up and runs. And the fuel cart is due for a return any second now. There it goes. And that is pretty much the entire system. I just kind of want to pop to the part where I have it all activating. And here we are. I finished decorating it. I added some signs and stuff explaining how to run it. And there's some of the test runs I did. And it's pretty fast. I mean, it's still, in a couple seconds you get an entire stack of something. You just have to wait for the hoppers to send it. So I turned on the fuel, and I decided to decorate it with some glass on the front. And I used all of them just to see what each color would look like in a beautiful little rainbow pattern. And there you go. You can see all the furnaces turning on. And overall, I had fun doing this project. I want to do my own spin on a super smelter, but I just didn't want to go crazy and complex with code and stuff. I wanted to just have something simple enough for anyone to follow, but complex enough where it's huge, big, and gonna cost a lot of resources, which I do try to keep that in mind when I'm building these things. So that is pretty much going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the super smelter, which I'm probably gonna change the name down the line, maybe the super duper smelter. I don't know, what would you call this smelter besides a lot of iron? And I did experiment with fuels and stuff. So other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button and make me cry. And please comment down below. I love reading comments, what you thought about it, what you changed, any ideas you have for the future. I love having recommendations. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. I always have new content on the way. And other than that, this is Sergeant Alex, and I hope you have a nice day.